Hey, Ursula here. We're down in the grow room in the basement. Just going to show you what I've got here in my setup. Just so you can see how I have it set up. These lights cannot have any water dripped on them, so I have them up top so they're safe. They have grow bulbs in them. In this first tray, pretty much everybody's been outside already, except for the strawberries. They were a little bit of a late comer. These are alpine strawberries, and I am very looking forward to these. And in with the alpine strawberries, I have, besides the weeds, I have celery. So you can see that. That's celery coming up. That might be a weed. Hard to say. Sometimes I pulled the clover out already. There's another clover. But there's celery in here. And these guys are just about ready to get hardened off. Celery is a cooler weather plant. And it takes a long time to grow, so it gets started really early. This is the pansy that grew in the middle of my Tardorna leeks. Looks like I got a couple of them in there. That's going to be hard to separate. Behind that, I've got foxglove, I've got chives, and I've got parsley in the back. These guys, we have a cold snap this weekend. So just after the cold snap, these guys are going to get hardened off because they're ready to go outside. And hiding in the back, I think there's some lettuce too. That's ready to actually get planted. But we'll harden it off. Hardening it off means that it goes out onto the porch and gets used to wind and sun without stress. We don't want it sitting out transplanted under transplant stress with hot sun beating down on it, killing it. So we slowly harden them off by putting them outside in the shade first and then gradually moving them into the sun. They get exposed to wind and that makes their stems stronger. Here I've got spinach in the front bloomstale, looks like. And then I've got cabbage. And I have a Swiss chard hiding back there. Some winter save. What does that say? Winter density lettuce. 2 of those guys. But there is some chard back there, which I'm happy about. I had bad germination on the chard this year. It's older seed. All right. This guy I just put in. These are beets. They're not going to be under lights. The cold snap finishes Saturday, so it's going outside right away. Just as it germinates, it's going to go into sunlight outside so that they'll be ready to transplant right away. The basement down here is fairly cool. There's a carrot that I never left outside over winter. It never grew enough to bother. It may actually go to seed this year if I put it out. That's not ready to go out though. Mostly because I need the space on the front porch, but I also don't want to chase the bucket around when we have windstorms. So far in this seed tray, I've got cabbage and more cabbage. This is not that old. I planted it about a week ago, so nobody else is up except cabbage and one lonely chard. Next to it, this is 2 weeks. 2 weeks of growth. We have a thyme, some Genovese, I don't know how you say that, sweet basil. Hiding on the other side of the basil, we have 2 rosemary, 2 savory, and some eggplants. Nothing else grew. Well, something's growing. I think it's probably a basil. That may be a fern leaf lavender. I did plant some in there, and it kind of looks like it might be. Let's go down a row. See, this one just planted. Just planted this week. This is why I take pictures of these things, because I have no idea. There's flowers in here. That's all I remember. I planted a lot of flowers. You need flowers for pollinators to bring them into the garden to pollinate other things as well. This I'm very excited about because I had really poor germination on my leeks. So I found on top of the fridge in a tray, you know how you put things on top of the fridge and forget about them, was a huge head of leek seeds. And I just broke it up and planted it into trays, and I have not just 2, but 3 trays of leeks coming up, and that's very exciting. I just don't like my soil for some reason. I have a lavender. I think this one's an English lavender. These were supposed to be leeks. They're moss roses. That was a surprise. And then down on the bottom, which I will push back underneath the lights in a minute, is we're alternating here. Tomato, basil, tomato, basil, tomato, basil, tomato, basil, tomato, basil. So it's going to be like that. I have an heirloom, kind of one of those big, kind of purpley heirloom tomatoes. It may have crossed. I have just random ones we picked up from the food co-op. And then I have Roma, I have Amish paste, and I have a new one for me called Borges, and I'm probably butchering the name. It's specifically for sun-dried tomatoes. So I always want 1 sun-dried, 2 canning for sauces, and heirlooms for slicers. And I also have yellow ones in here for salads. More of a cherry tomato, but they're yellow and they're sweet. Sweet as all get out. So that's what I've got going on here. There's like a whole bunch of different kinds of basil. I have a red Reuben, I have a ruffle, purple basil, I have Thai basil, I have sweet basil, and I still have yet to plant the cinnamon basil and the lime basil, which I also have seed for. Those may get direct seeded outside in a pot. So that's what we got going on here under the lights. And there are 3 plants sitting out on in the front hallway right now because it was awfully windy yesterday. But those will be getting hardened off this next week too, and then planted out in the garden outside. Mostly spinach and lettuce at this point, and maybe a couple of chard if I have any. Yesterday I put in the some of the cabbages, and they're very happy in the wet weather that we had overnight. And today I planted peas after soaking them overnight, so we'll see if those come up. So there's a lot to look forward to. With a garden, you always plant a lot, and then you wait and see what happens. Expect nothing, plant everything. That's how it is. Take care, everybody.